Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Metaworld News for the week ending the 8th of April 2018. This is a program where we bring you a few news highlights about social virtual worlds and a little bit about the interfacing technology that empowers our interactions with said worlds. I'm Mal Burns, and I'm joined here by, on cameras particularly, by James Outloud. So welcome, James.
Oh, thank you, Mal. Glad to be here.
And you can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/malburns. That's MALBURNS. And that feed is actually where I'm culling most of the things I'm going to be reading out from. There is a secondary feed too, which I'll get to after, which is twitter.com/metaworldnews, or one word again, but after the title of this program. And there is some more specific virtual worlds news as opposed to general news on that feed. Anyway, to get down to business, you'll be happy to know that after a couple of weeks of serious croaking, we are back to normal again here, as far as the organics are concerned. There won't be an in-world review this week because it's been a bit late to get something organised, but otherwise I think everything is back to normal in terms of expelled viruses and such like. Okay, so going back roughly a week or so ago, I'm trying to figure out on the fly, as it were, what we covered already last week. The virtual world high fidelity, which is a new breed of virtual world, a startup, basically founded by Second Life creator Philip Rosedale. He's joined up with a haptics-based company in the West Coast called Neosensory, and they've partnered to create a haptic jacket that's been dubbed the Exoskin. It's available for pre-order for about $400 US, and it features 32 sensory motors and will work with high fidelity, and arguably the skin can be controlled with JavaScript, in fact, and basically be compatible with all sorts of other virtual reality input devices in the future. So 32 motors for $400 US doesn't sound too bad. It doesn't. I love reading these things that are always written from the tech standpoint of view. There's quite a long review here. It's actually at road2vr.com. Nowhere in this article does it actually tell me whether I can actually safely wash this jacket. When you consider 32 motors and I don't know how much wiring in there, I mean, can you actually put it in the laundrette? I don't know. It'd be helpful if we were told these things, wouldn't it? Anyway, that's a bit of that. Right, number 635 of voicesofvr.com, which is Ken Byers' podcast. What's happening with the VR industry is adoption growth still on target to support a vibrant and diverse ecosystem of independent VR, etc. So they have a podcast up called Candid Assessment of the VR Industry from a leading indie developer. This one I know we reported last week. Google are acquiring a light field capture studio called Litro. Light fields are a different way of capturing light field and creating photorealistic environments without the same technique that's used in traditional photography and cinema, which is basically the depth of field and the panoramic photo model. This is all done with kind of object positioning and stuff. Sorry, I just clicked a button which suggests that was my last post. Not the soundtrack. Oh, I see. It's all updating on me. Isn't this wonderful? Right, let me go back in there. Fine, okay. Well, there were a couple more. Right, Apple have been up to their patenting thing again. Apple's patent could turn self-driving cars into VR entertainment hubs. This is posted at uploadvr.com. And straightforward, really. Apple have filed a patent, which is clearly referring to something fairly long way into the future, I guess, but highly illustrated. It seems that in the future, according to Apple, there will be no more windows in your cars. They'll be self-driving, and the whole of the internal environments of your car will basically be modeled to be a virtual reality simulation. Everything from the seats to where the windows were to the floors and whatever. The driving of the car will take care of itself, and you'll be in a car experiencing virtual reality, which may not even involve flying or flying or anything. So go figure. Anyway, this is an Apple patent, and the pictures illustrating it are quite elaborate here. US Patent and Trademark Office has published Apple patent applications for several fascinating virtual reality concepts, but the latest one takes the cake. And yeah, it's a patent for a VR system for autonomous cars. And it radically transforms the car's interior and exterior environments, making the ride more fun for passengers. Unless you actually want to look out the window and see where you're going, of course, in which case, well, enough of that. See, here's the button that's meant to take him back. There we are. Right. Uploadvr.com, yes, again, a post by Ian Hamilton a day or two ago. Virtual reality headset history from 2012 to 2018. Obviously, the photo shows Oculus Rift, because why wouldn't it? But basically, it's a little article looking at what is effectively 6 years of recent development with VR headsets, and basically having a look at all of them, the winners, losers, everything else. Now, today I also got a post from a site. I actually got several posts. I think it may have been an RSS feed that's only just turned up on my import list. It's basically from a site called Enter VR. When it opens, I'll be able to tell you. Yeah, Enter VR. Very interesting. I'll tell you in a minute. I think it's a .com, but I'll tell you in a minute when I can get back to the front page. This is actually a podcast, and the one I've put up here, it's actually dated April 7th, so it would appear to be current. Cyberdelic virtual worlds and creating vibrant virtual communities, featuring Christopher Valor, a.k.a. The Architect. Now, I can't say I know a great deal of much this avatar called The Architect is. It looks to me like the Enter VR podcast is filmed in VR chat. And this chat called The Architect is the creator of somewhere called Club Transcendia, which is in VR chat. Anyway, kind of just general kind of overview what this guy, The Architect, did and done, especially with VR chat, but also his thoughts on where things are going and the future. It is a bit biased towards VR chat, this I must admit, but curious all the same. Now, another chap, in fact, I'm going to flip. I'm going to come back to this because the link I need is in the other feed coming up in a minute or two. So I'll come back to that chap, The Architect. Finally, in the main feed, this virtual reality exhibit lets the visually impaired touch art. This is a post at vrscout.com, and it's about the National Gallery in Prague. This is the real world Prague, and its National Gallery as opposed to any virtual build of such that might be. And they've introduced a tactile VR experience for blind people. And the only way they can often experience artwork is with someone describing the art to them in detail. Whereas touching masterpieces is an art exhibit that lets you experience art through VR, but not with a VR headset. Instead, the VR experience is delivered through the sense of touch, using haptic gloves to give you the ability to feel artwork through physical feedback. And, well, I won't go on. If you want more information about all that, then you can look up the article at VR Scout. But very nice thing to be seen, because obviously when you consider A virtual reality environment could be a complete black space where you can't see anything, where everything is audio. Or it could be a complete black space where you can't see anything, but you can still you can still touch things that are in front of you, even though there's no light source allowing you to see them, which of course is very much the case with people who are visually impaired. There's basically their eyes can't detect a light source, so the light source can't illuminate the things you would normally see with reflected light. So quite a rather interesting idea that, where they're using virtual reality tactile bodysuits and things to create a sense of touch for the blind. Even though obviously they can't show the vision thing, as somebody once called it. Right, sorry about that. Right, back to my main screen here. Now, on to the other feed, which is twitter.com slash Metaworld News. And this is the one, I think. There are a few things here. These links tend to be more towards news about actual things going on at the moment. I'm actually going to start by just letting James know here. I have a couple of slides up on our left-hand screen that I can show while we're talking. These were originally going to be the InWorld review, but I'm going to show them here anyway. These are events that, strictly speaking, are going on in virtual worlds at the moment. All three of the ones I'm showing you now are actually on the hypergrid, so they're in open simulator regions that are all connected together. The first event started last Monday, and it goes on to the end of this month at tanglegrid.com. If you are in Open Simulator and want to jump across there, the hypergrid address is tanglegrid.net : and then 8002 is the port, and then : Expo Space Isle is the name of their Expo region. And basically it's some good old-fashioned expo going on. It's basically showing off costumes and accessories, all to do with fashion. There is some stuff for sale there that you can buy using Globits, the cross-grid currency system. And there is stuff that you can pick up for free, and other stuff you can simply see, as in exhibited. So that goes on to the end of the month, and it's basically it's the expo grounds on Tangle Grid are very much a hypergrid wide sort of expo facility. Right, moving on from that, my next picture is the Littlefield family. There's a grid on the hypergrid called the Littlefield grid. It's not as accessible as some hypergrid grids. I think it depends on which grid is your home grid as to how easily you can get into it. But anyway, regardless of all that, they're actually celebrating a whole 5 years of the Littlefield grid. And as you can see, their family is quite a big one. Whether that, I'm sure that is not all their residents. I'm sure that is just the staff. Or maybe it's staff and family, or staff and family affairs. I don't know. There's a lot of them, aren't there? I love the guy in the middle, more or less in the middle, with that glowing, furry kind of coat. It feels like it's a silhouette of what's his name, Prince. the purple one. I don't know, but anyway, that's the whole Littlefield family. And
that's great. I'm zooming in on him. That's pretty good.
yeah. And I do know they started their events last night, really, but they've been posting quite a few today on our Discord channel and stuff like that. So it's I guess today will be the main second day of it. So although 5 years is a good excuse for the celebration, so they'll probably be at it all week or all month for all I know. Anyway, it's happening there. So congratulations to Littlefield Grid on their 5th anniversary. And finally, this next one is looking a bit further ahead. You probably can't read the top bit. It seems to have got cropped a bit. But
cut off.
Jessie Campbell, who's very well known on the Nara's Nuke. She has her I can't read it myself. She has this burlesque production company, and they're getting together with Hypergrid Savari and also Tosha Tyran to present this celebration of the life of Lumiere Noir on April.
Is it Flair Burlesque?
Yes,
Flair
yeah,
Burlesque.
Flair
Hmm.
Burlesque Productions, yeah.
Yep.
I think this is more than just a day. The April 25th is actually a Wednesday when Safari will be visiting them. This Sanctuary, the Grid, by the way, is where Eld is, which is the very popular. It's actually probably my recommended hypergrid jumping place. You know, it's got an islands in the sky with thousands of hypergates on them. But this is on the same grid, albeit it's a separate region called Ivory City 4. And as you can see from the picture, that kind of island and those extraordinary buildings very much typify the work of Lumiere Noir, who
Hmm.
passed away a few years ago. And he also designed Metaverse City, well, Metaverse Island, which was the headquarters city of Metaverse TV in Second Life way back when. And, just looking at this picture here, I can see all the traits there, although our particular city was even more gigantic. And I said to James before we came on air, I had an office there for about 3 years. And in the entire length of that 3 years, I never could find my way into the office. I had to teleport to get to it, but the build and the twisting, winding lanes on different levels was so complex that I could never find my way back from the studio to my own office.
Hmm.
In over 3 years or something, and
Wow.
yeah, it makes you want to laugh really, but it's that very fact is a kind of tribute to the skills of this particular builder.
Oh yeah, and the
You
design
know?
for those latticed buildings, the method for producing them is very interesting. I think we had a presentation on the Safari about how
We
they were
did.
built. Yeah.
Yes, we did. Somebody demonstrated how he used to go about doing a lot of that stuff, and
Very nice
I,
mathematics.
I,
Yeah.
yes, as usual, it was when you know how to do it, it's not nearly as hard as it looks. But it's the mark of the artist, though, the person who devises that way of doing things, and it becomes part of their style and whatever. So yeah, great stuff. Anyway, that's it for the pictures, I think. Yeah, that's just a publicity blurb about in World Review, which is not happening this week. So back to the old mug shot behind the desk here, and I'm going to flip back to the posts I have on screen. Right, we covered this one last year. I mean, last week. Whisper in my virtual ear. This was a post at highfidelity.com about their sound techniques. A lovely name, Whisper in my virtual ear. Right, in Worlds, which is another world that is not actually on the hypergrid. Basically, it followed. It's an open sim, or was at one time an open sim based world, but it followed its own path and it now runs a kind of engine, if that's the word, called Halcyon. It's sort of what you might call part of the family, but you can't teleport in. You do need a separate login. But DanielVoyager.wordpress.com had a post about a week ago about their ninth birthday celebrations, which again started at the beginning of the week, and are presumably continuing ahoy through April. And I suspect we'll get Eleanor or somebody from InWorld's over to InWorld Review or something before the month is out to catch up on that. There is also a couple of days ago a new edition of iNews, which is their video sort of program up, and I suspect I haven't fully watched it yet, but I suspect there's more about the birthday in that as well. Right, copy mod trans safari. This was hgsafari.blogspot.com. Basically a roundup of actually I'm sorry, this is the week before last safari. What was probably the last 3-stop safari, she says. In fact, this week's is called Sweet April Whirls. hgsafari.blogspot.com. Two of the best open sim performers at two of the greatest OS grid regions. They had Bingy's Sweet Surroundings with some spoken word poetry and things on an Amsterdam region in OS grid. And I'm trying to remember what the other stop was. I can't read it out because it's further down the list. Let me see what I got. Sweet April Whirls, indeed. Right. Yeah, this was actually in a big VAR region. It took rather a long while to load, but it was one of those lovely sort of locations to sit out and look at the greater environment that was sort of surrounding them while we were listening to poetry. And then people moved on to the club that Stefan Thomas runs in virtual Belfast. And in fact, it was a bit distracting because the first place we arrived was a recreation of an old cinema in Belfast, and there were a lot of movies about music over the years in Northern Ireland. From the 60s to 70s, 80s, 90s, really, and obviously a lot of political mix in there too, as was the case in the region. Um, and I actually found myself watching these, intently watching some of these films that had been put up and embedded in the cinema. So much so that I missed a gig. Everybody else left the cinema and went to the gig, and I was still busy watching the films for a while. So I did catch the end of it, and yeah, there was some rather nice performances, particularly from I think, although I missed it, there was a short one from. I can't remember her name, sorry. But Whirly Placebo, who doesn't actually play that often, did a nice little set there, which I did catch at the end, and that was great indeed. So, sgsafariblogspot.com for a roundup on that. And just flip back a bit. Oh, is that it? Sorry, I'm sure I have another post here. Yes, I do. What's going on? Right. Okay, I know what I should have done. Right. Ryan Schultz. I do. I think. Yeah, actually, one way or another, I've just got 3 posts, all from him. He does quite a lot of interesting stuff, so I've added him to this feed, and I'm hoping to actually get him on the show. He might even have made it today if he had a microphone, which he doesn't. But anyway, he has some thoughts on land market and Second Life, and by comparison with the newer virtual worlds. And where you want to go is ryanschultz.com, actually. ryanschultz.com. And as I say, he has some thoughts on the land market, not only in the existing worlds, but the way this might be going to work in some of the more modern worlds coming online, and how they're actually going to handle land. And of course, he has a little dig about the post he had the other week about Decentraland, where people pay millions of actual dollars or something to get virtual lands that they now can't sell. All blockchain-y stuff. Go figure. So that's from him. Now, he also has another post, and this is what I was thinking about a few minutes ago. Tying in with VR Chat, in fact. This past Wednesday, for the 4th, was the 1-year anniversary of a popular talk show called Endgame, which is actually held in VR Chat. And Ryan decided to drop by and see what's been happening. The show takes place every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, so it's not very European friendly, that's for sure. They basically it sounds like something I would quite like. If it might help if they had it a bit earlier, really. Over the past year, they've had various topics ranging from Bitcoin to blockchain technology to virtual culture, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and transhumanism, and everything in between. And the show's been quite a success story in VR Chat. And a great example of the promise of social VR platforms fostering better communication and understanding between people. So quite interesting. So you can find various links from Ryan's post if you want to find out more about this. But also what was rather interesting is it turns out the Endgame show also has an active channel, or rather server on Discord. Which is actually called, it's not called Endgame, it's called Deep Thoughts. And you can also click on that to tap into some of the discussion going on there. And there's also links to past videos of the show on YouTube. It's it looks like good stuff, and I hope to actually have it gone under the radar with me. This one is one I would hope to catch up on a bit. It doesn't appeal to me visually because I hate seeing visible interfaces and name tags above avatars. But at the end of the day, it's the content that counts. So I shall withhold judgment on that front. Now, this morning, love it, love it, love it. Ryan has also posted another post saying Science Space is a virtual world to watch. Well, he's posted enough on Science Space already, but so he found something today. I forget what it is. Science Space is growing on him. That's right. Um, he comments that Adam Frisbee was smart to use Unity because it can leverage development work that's been taking place on Unity without having them to do it themselves. Um, um, oh yeah. I think actually, if you use Sansar too, Linda Lamb's program, you can also do certain things in Unity now that can be uploaded to Sansar. But Ryan has actually found out about a plugin to Unity called Pro Builder, which has updated. I think it's now free, whereas it used to be paid. It's now one of the free assets. And it allows you to create level design in Unity in a kind of blocky sort of fashion that has been compared with the way you use prims in OpenSim and in Second Life. So for those of us like here, whose idea of sitting behind a desk is to make a curved brim and hollow it out, cough, cough. No
It's
fancy,
not
no,
really here, but it is really here. Yeah.
yeah, something like that. No need to go running to Unity to do that. But apparently, if I was in Unity, Pro Builder's tools would allow one to do a similar sort of thing. Not exactly the same, but generally the same. And Ryan does make a point that if some Second Life users knew that this tool was available in Unity, they might come rushing into it. and also, I haven't tackled him about this, even though I spoke to him in text briefly earlier, but Ryan also has sort of announced with somebody called Andrew, his producer. He seems to be planning an up-and-coming show called the Metaverse Newscast. Although I think the studio they're building for it is in Science Space. I'm pretty sure I jumped in and saw it. It was pretty sparse. But it may be in Sensible High Fidelity. I can't quite remember. It's definitely not VR Chats, I'll tell you that. I think it's going to be more like November this year before they actually plan to sort of launch it. At the moment, they've just got the studio. But I'm hoping to get him on here and, find out how close the Metaverse Newscast will be to what we're doing. And maybe we can collaborate or something. So we will see what we will see when I can get him along.
Yep.
So anyway, that's basically a quick update to Science Space and Pro Builder in Unity there. Right, flipping the flipboard back and flipping the flipboard back again. Yeah, flipping away here. And my final glance is going to be at my posts, which I believe is just my quick way of checking out what has been on. No, in fact, this is basically me checking up on posts on Google Plus, and there's nothing major there. So that's about it for this week's news, as it were. Anything on your radar, James? You'd like to get in while we're here? I'm sure I've missed a few things. You've had plenty of time to think while I've been nattering.
Not in particular, but no, I also am finding Science Space very, very interesting. I'm seeing so many ideas that for users and features that are just popping up all over Science Space, and I'm just enjoying a lot the use of the platform, and definitely think it's a platform to watch. Other thing, I did see the Ready Player One movie this weekend, and after the movie, I went to visit my children, and they have a PlayStation VR, and one of the children is a teacher, and I just, the classic reaction of when an educator is first introduced to a technology like this, and when you see that light bulb that goes, oh, this would be so good for my class. And it's, we've seen this so many times, but it's just an exciting time with these technologies of experience and memory and learning. I think it's very exciting, very thrilling.
Mm. Yeah, clearly. It seems to me the Ready Player One has it's been pretty well received. It certainly isn't a Spielberg flop, thank goodness. Mixed reactions to people who read the book because a lot of Spielberg, I believe, has used contemporary or near contemporary pop culture references to replace what might be called the gamer references that were in the book, but basically still kept in the spirit of the thing. And of course, movies aren't books,
Right.
So yeah, and I did notice in the Discord channels, for example, the Science Space have a Discord channel, and the comments about that Pro Builder tools and what we're talking about there was Adam was saying sort of, well, you could almost wait because we'll soon have in-world building tools that are literally like that Pro Builder.
I've heard about things like that. Yep.
Anyway, yeah, so a lot moving forward there, and as you know, I've actually got very good a contraption I can put on my face in Science Space that instead of just moving my lips like you see me now, actually allows me to wiggle my eye. Right. I can wiggle my eyebrows and give you a wink. I can do quite a few fancy things thanks to the camera connection. It's a bit strenuous on the processor, but it does its trick.
It does. Yeah.
But there are mechanical problems. I mean, particularly for us broadcasting, we need a controllable heads-up display for video that we can control from in-world. It's no use building one in Unity and importing it, and it's a fixed asset that you can't freely adjust while you're filming. So, there are things to be undertaken there, but it's largely because, new platform, new metaphors, new tools, you name it,
Yep.
But, yes, it does seem to be improving. And something we, of course, mentioned before we were on air was there was a supposed to be a special interview in Science Space during the week with Lauren,
Jared.
Jared Lardier, that's it. Who's often considered the father of VR, or grandfather of VR, is probably more appropriate now. And he was going to be interviewed by Hamlet Hall for New World Notes. And he was in there and tested, and he was fine. He had this rather extraordinary octopus avatar. And all was fine until, of course, the real thing came along, and suddenly his computer went wrong, and apparently his colleagues at Microsoft sent somebody around to his home office with new graphics cards and everything. They got there in half an hour, kitted it up, and after half an hour delay, everybody thought it was going to be fine. And then, oops, it was even worse than before. And then, of course, you got the chain of remarks about, well, that's what happens when you put Microsoft in charge of a PC.
Burn.
Yes, exactly. So, there was a lot of humour to be had by one all. And actually, one of the most extraordinary things was finding myself standing next to and chatting to Phil Rosedale. He didn't look like Phil, but his voice certainly was him. And then I was talking away, and suddenly hang on, we're not in high fidelity here. We're in Science Space. I think the attraction of that show that didn't happen was such that people are coming from all over the place to be in the audience for that one. But it is apparently going to be rescheduled. And if you had an invite and ticket for the one that didn't happen last week, you will be sure to get one for the next happening too.
Yeah. That is very exciting. And as a video streamer, the thing I'm desperately waiting for is eye contact between avatars, and I could see that happening in Science Space. That would be wonderful.
I believe we're probably getting a bit techie and boring the pants off a few people, but I believe there is going to be separate from the camera and the facial animation I was talking about. There is supposed to be a part of science-based system that will basically turn an avatar. If you were talking, um, um, it would, and you're in close proximity facing somebody, but when you're talking, the faces, the heads of nearby avatars will turn to face you because you're the voice source.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get, from a third person camera point of view, at least you would probably see avatars heads turning to face the person talking.
No, that'd be wonderful. I mean, it's a small break. Yeah. It's a small break of immersion, but also it's a break. So look forward to it.
Yeah, it's just like that extra little enhancement that we haven't seen before. And, it's like, going back to the days of early virtual worlds here. I mean, 10 years ago, we did not have this kind of voice that moved my lips here.
Right.
Even in Second Life, they didn't have it. It came along eventually, and, from that moment on, doing a little video broadcast from Second Life, or these days out here in the hypergrade, is, it's part of the course. You see the lips moving, it looks a bit more realistic. But, it was a key point where things changed. Before that, it was all still faces, which sadly science-based still has. Still faces, and they weren't even lips. It wasn't even talking heads. It was still pictures with sound. And just that little thing, the animation made all the difference. So to emotion and everything else, really. Okay, well, enough of our pontificating, or whatever the expression is. I think that's it for this week. We will, of course, be back same time, same place next week with more news. And hopefully we'll be back on course with some regular weekly editions of the In-World Review, which are normally on this channel about an hour after this show. So until then, it's just a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from him.
There, we've sorted that one.
We nailed it.
Well, we sort of nailed that one, didn't we? Yeah,
yes.
I'm Mark Burns. It's James Atlow. We forgot our names, but never mind. We will be back next week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.